Let's start with that really shocking fact that suicide is the biggest killer of men under 45. Why do you think that is?
It's a frightening statistic. I think what's also frightening is that only, 20% of the population are aware of that, yet I think it's over 40% of men under 45 have given it some thought, which is another frightening statistic. As to why, I think reasons differ for every person. You know, everyone's situation is different. One of the big and most obvious problems for men is probably not talking. It's the fear of appearing vulnerable, of that being a weakness. And I guess what we need to do is redefine what it is to be a man. Yeah.
Why is there such a sort of taboo about talking about suicide, and how do you break that taboo?
Well, it's violent, isn't it? There's no nice way to bring it up in conversation. Ultimately, if someone takes their own life, it's a violent death, and I don't think that's a pleasant conversation for anyone. But it's the taboo that surrounds it and the fear of asking that question, of saying to someone, are you suicidal? You know, because people want to avoid that awkwardness, because it is still awkward, we're not comfortable with it, that causes problems. Because I think sometimes if you just give someone the option to talk, you know, give them the freedom to speak freely, you know, you might even get sigh of relief from them sometimes, because they go, you know what, yes, I am.
Well, have you found it a comfort to talk about your father taking his own life?
I'll be honest with you, I've found it really difficult for the most part. It's not something I enjoy talking about. But, you know, shooting a documentary put me in a terrible place, having to deal with what was brought to the surface. You know, I thought I'd made amends with it. I hadn't. But having to deal with what was brought to the surface, and I still am. It's still ongoing. I'm not sure if it ever won't be. But that's definitely helping, and in that sense, I suppose it has been cathartic.
Would you ever make amends with something like that?
That's what I mean. You know, but I have to get to a point where those feelings don't have so much control over me, and the way to disempower them is to keep them present, actually. It's not to bury them away like so many people do. It's talking about them more frequently, I suppose. But for me, I think I need to do it less in this sort of environment and deal with my personal problems. It's easy to, you know, when you're trying to help others, forget that you have problems yourself.
Well, what kind of impact has your father taking his own life had on your own mental health?
For me, I've always suffered with anxiety as a kid. It was a terrible problem for me. I spent a lot of time off of school and at the doctors and with them looking for a physical ailment, because I didn't have the tools or the vocabulary or the understanding at that age to say I'm anxious. And that really stemmed from him being in and out of my life as a kid. I was always worried about people leaving me. I loved him, you know, it was difficult. But his passing, I suppose, in a sense, obviously there's nothing positive about him taking his own life, but what came from that was a much higher sense of self-awareness, which is important, because a lot of times people ignore what's going on with themselves.
Today there's been this campaign launched calling for more money. Is money the answer?
I think it will help. I don't think it's necessarily the be-all and end-all. I think onus is on everyone, really. You know, it's especially parents with children. It's about, I think society has moved on so quickly, and the role of a man has changed, you know, whereas the role of a woman has become more defined, a man's is perhaps less so. Stress used to be one of two things when we were hunter-gatherers. It was we're under attack or we're starving, whereas now stress is prevalent in every aspect of life: relationship stress, marital stress, work stress, financial stress. And I don't think we've evolved to a place where we quite know how to deal with all that. And ultimately we're affected, irrespective of being male or female. Things affect you, but we're just a little bit more shy about admitting that.
Professor Green, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.